What's up, guys? So today we're in my 1989 Jeep Cherokee XJ. Just kind of wanted to do a video on is the Cherokee a good daily driver. So I've had the Jeep for a little over a year now, and I've put on maybe 2,000 miles, 1,500 miles, something like that. So I figured I got a pretty good idea daily driving this thing in the winter. This is kind of my winter daily. So I'm just going to talk a couple different things, a couple different sections. We're going to talk about reliability, maintenance, practicality, and then just some miscellaneous things that I kind of came up with. So let's talk about reliability. So these are really reliable engines. The inline 6 engine, the AMC made. Very, very reliable. Wayman, if you guys haven't seen his YouTube channel, he just drove his Cherokee with like 280 some thousand miles, 7,000 miles across the country. No mechanical issues at all. These engines, if well taken care of, will last you a very, very long time. And another thing that's kind of funny about this, when I got this Jeep originally, the fuel pressure regulator was leaking fuel everywhere. The spark plug had, the spark plug wire had a cut in it, and was arcing to the block, and then my positive battery terminal was the actual casing on the battery cable itself was completely shot on it, and the Jeep ran totally fine. That's when I first bought it. Ran totally fine, which is just kind of amazing how even with all those problems, it literally didn't care. So very simple, reliable vehicles. You'll see a lot of them on the road still. The main kind of downside to these are going to be the rust. So if you buy one that's really rusty, you're probably not going to have that reliability. You know, other parts are going to start failing because of the rust, things like that. But so number one, reliability. The Cherokees, the XJs definitely have that reliability for a daily driver. It'll get you anywhere. Number two, that's going to bring it into the maintenance of the Jeep. So say something does break on it, super easy to fix. They're a very simple design. Even these older ones, the Renix era ones, very simple. A little bit different than the Chrysler versions of the XJ, but really simple. Once you kind of get an idea of how everything kind of works, really simple to troubleshoot. And there's tons and tons of information online on these Cherokees on what to check. You know, if something's wrong, someone else has probably had that issue before. So another thing is going to be cost of parts. Really, really cheap parts for these. They made millions of Cherokees, and the Cherokees and Comanches share a lot of the same parts. Even some of the Wranglers share some same parts with the Cherokees. So parts availability is really, really high, and the parts are super cheap. Like for reference, I replaced the harmonic balancer on this thing. It lasted 255,000 miles on it, and hadn't failed yet, but it was on its way to failing. But anyway, that was like $40 for that. I just replaced the air idle control valve on this thing. That was like $10. So really, really inexpensive. My Comanche, which has got the 2.5 liter, I replaced the water pump on that. That was like maybe $25. So all the parts super, super inexpensive on these things. So if something does break, it's not going to break the bank, and you're going to be able to fix it no problem. So yeah, so that's pretty much when it comes down to the maintenance. Super easy to work on, cheap parts. You know, you really don't have to worry. If you're relatively mechanically inclined, it's going to be very, very simple. But if you're even new, I would say great vehicle to start learning on. Everything's really simple, well designed, and pretty much easy to get to. So. All right, so number three, we're going to talk about practicality. This is probably where this thing shines the most. I didn't really realize how practical it was going to be until obviously actually using it. Number one is the size of it. It's a really small vehicle, yet it fits a lot of people. So you can have 5 people, like 4 comfortably. There's a middle seat, so you can have 5. So if you need to take people around, super easy, they can hop in. It's not extremely spacious back there. I'm 6 foot, and I can easily sit in the back comfortably. So there's really no worry that way. So another thing that's been really nice, so I'm a photographer and videographer when I'm not doing YouTube. So when I have to go to clients' places to go take photos, I load the rear seat up, or actually the rear trunk up with all my photo gear. So I have my tripod, my huge Pelican case with all my camera gear in it, and super easy. Lift the trunk up, grab all the stuff. It all fits really nicely in there. I would always take my Wrangler, and my Wrangler's a little bit more involved to fit everything in it. I love my Wrangler, but as far as like going to jobs and just simply packing the Jeep up, or if I have to like pack tools, like if I gotta go work on someone's car, I'll pack the rear up with tools. And if I need a lot of space, the whole rear seat can fold down flat and you just have a ton of space. So like when I go to the range with my buddy, I'll throw up a picture here. We had this thing packed with all of our gear for the day, and it worked out really, really great. So that's been really nice. It's a small vehicle, which I like smaller vehicles. I like how they drive. This thing's super light. So the inline six, even with not that much horsepower, it's got some giddy up and it goes pretty good. So the practicality of it has been awesome. Being able to take people wherever you want, fold the seats down if you really need a lot of space, and yeah, most of the time it's just me in here, so really don't need that many people, but in the rare case that I do need to take some people, they can hop in the back and it's not a problem. All right, so now we're gonna go into like some miscellaneous things that aren't really a category by themselves. The MPG is decent on it. I'll throw up the factory rated miles per gallon with this. This has the CAD axle disconnect system in it. So basically it is, when it's in two-wheel drive, it's really in two-wheel drive. So you guys should get really decent mileage in this thing for what it is. These older ones are really light too, so that also helps, but I'll put the mileage up from the original window sticker on the screen now. But I mean, it's not great. I mean, if you're into anything modern, you know, the mileage is going to be terrible. So mine actually has a 5-speed in it, which I really love the 5-speed. If you can, they didn't make that many XJs in manual, but if you can find a manual that's decent, definitely go for that. It just makes the driving experience so much more fun. The automatics in these are fine for automatics. I'm just not an automatic guy. So having the stick shift really just kind of wakens the Jeep up and you really feel connected with it, and I like that a lot. So another thing, I just love the way these look. If you're watching this video, you probably agree that you like the way these things look. There's just something about the simple square design. I like the pre-97 model years, a little bit more square, a little more boxy. The newer ones do look nice too, but I definitely prefer the older style. That's just kind of what I like. Another thing that I really like that makes it a great daily is the ride. For a 30-some-year-old truck, this thing rides really, really nice. So you have coil spring front suspension and then leafs in the rear. My leafs are pretty worn out, so that's probably why it rides a little bit smoother, because they're pretty much almost flat. So I'll be doing a video on replacing those in the future. But other than that, it drives really nice. This thing will do whatever your speed limit on the freeway is. It'll do 75, 80, whatever you want it to do. No problem at all. Really smooth. So if you have a long commute to work, this thing will do it no problem. So those are kind of like the miscellaneous ones. And then I'll give you guys some cons too, because obviously no vehicle's perfect. This one's pretty close. But some cons. If you were to get in an accident, you probably would die, I would think, at least in these older ones too. So if that's a real concern to you, you know, you'd probably lose in a crash to many other things. I mean, this thing doesn't even have a airbag because it's before they had airbags in the Jeeps. So that's just something to consider too. I don't really, I don't know. I guess I don't really take that in consideration really. So some people might. So if that's important to you, definitely keep that in mind. That the newer ones are probably a little bit better, but you know, anything from these older eras aren't going to be as safe as new stuff. So the last con is going to be not necessarily specific to these things, but because these things are old, you're going to have a lot more issues with rust. So these things, anywhere where you know they use road salts on the road, a lot of these things are just going to be shot. It's a unibody construction, so you know if you get some rust along the subframe and things like that, you know you're pretty much toast. So that's kind of something to consider too, is if you're looking for, like I was talking about all this reliability and everything, if you get something that's super rusty, you're probably going to run into a lot of problems. So if at all possible, if you're looking at one of these, definitely don't get one with rust. Just avoid it. And if it is rusty, make sure it's in, you know, no structural areas. So I'll probably do another video on kind of where to look for rust on these things. But yeah, so that's just kind of something. And then also they're cheap, so they're super beat up by a lot of different people. So you're gonna have to be careful on the XJ you pick. You know, if you can find one that was driven by an old lady and an old guy or something like that, those are probably the best because they're probably maintained, not beaten. But I wouldn't buy someone's trail rig that's just been abused its whole life. So that's just something to consider. So anyway, guys, hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you're looking at getting the Cherokee, looking at dailying it, kind of my experience with it, I love it. It's probably the best daily for me as far as, old Jeeps go. It's still an old Jeep. It's got that classic look, but it is nice. It's got a nice heater in it, and it starts up for me every day. And if it doesn't, it's probably an easy fix. So you really don't have to worry too much about it. And if you're any somewhat mechanically inclined, you can take care of this thing. So anyway, guys, if you guys got any useful information or if it was helpful, give me a thumbs up. That helps me out a bunch. Definitely consider subscribing. That helps me out as well. And then if you want to show a little bit extra support, you can become a channel member. When you become a channel member, you get access to my Discord channel, where we kind of post some behind the scenes photos. I got a bunch of other members in there too, where they post pictures of their Jeeps. If you have any questions about your Jeep or anything like that, we kind of hang out there, trying to come up with to make it worth it for you guys, showing some extra support for me. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.